Alright, gather round, folks, because Uncle Three's got a spine chilling tale for you tonight. It's a story from way back before the year 2000 about a place that's whispered to be the most haunted spot in all of Vietnam. And if you ask Uncle Three, it might just crack the top 10 most haunted places on earth. We are talking about Thuan Kieu Plaza in Ho Chi Minh City. Now, for a time, Thuan Kieu was a real landmark for Vietnamese people. It was meant to be a grand symbol, a place where folks could have fun, and a luxury living space for both locals and expats. But here's the kicker. It was eerily quiet for a long while. You see, back then, most people in Saigon weren't used to apartment living. They much preferred traditional townhouses. All those monthly fees for parking, electricity, and trash just weren't their style. However, folks from China, Taiwan, and Singapore, they were all pros at apartment living. In fact, townhouses were foreign to them. So, they saw Thuan Kieu as a prime investment opportunity, buying units just to flip them for a profit. This particular tale was shared with Uncle Three by a friend who lived right there in Thuan Kieu on the 9th floor. The scary stuff happened to their neighbors who lived directly above them on the 10th floor. These neighbors were Vietnamese but had Hong Kong roots. Their daughter Mai grew up in Vietnam, but Hong Kong was like her second home. And if you know anything about Hong Kong, buying a house there is a nightmare. It's practically the most expensive real estate in the world. So it was pretty standard for people from Hong Kong to buy property in places like Vietnam, where the cost was lower, perhaps for future retirement or business. Mai asked her parents to buy an apartment for her in Thuan Kieu. She came back to Vietnam and stayed there for about a week, setting up a new place and decorating. After that, she headed back to Hong Kong. Even with security, leaving the apartment empty for long periods felt a bit uneasy. So, May told her parents, "Hey, if you're free at night, why not come stay at my place?" Her parents, you see, sold joss paper and votive offerings in the market, so they lived right in their stall, which was quite a rough setup. The parents talked it over. The husband said, "You go stay there tonight, honey, I'll watch the shop." So, every night after they closed up shop, the wife would head over to the Thuan Kieu apartment May had bought. When the mother first moved in, she noticed something odd about Block C, which was supposed to be the liveliest part of Thuan Kieu. The whole hallway was deserted. Only 2 apartments were occupied, May's and another bought by an investor who barely stayed there. So for the entire week, the mother was completely alone on that floor. For the first 2 or 3 nights, everything was perfectly normal. In fact, she loved it. The apartment was incredibly comfortable, especially for the time around 2000. She even raved to her husband about it, saying how wonderful it was. It was so cool at night that she didn't even need the air conditioning. That's when she got an idea. Since it was so calm and breezy, she thought it'd be perfect to dry their laundry there, rather than in their old cramped market stall. So that night, she brought their clothes over to hang them up. As you might guess, for an elderly couple, it wasn't a huge load, just 2 of her outfits and 1 for her husband. She carefully hung them right in front of the balcony railing. Later that night, as she slept, she heard it, a knock on the door. She got up, opened the door, and looked out. The hallway was pitch black and utterly deserted. You see, at night, the security guards would turn off the lights on that floor. She couldn't see a soul, so she closed the door. But as soon as she turned to go back to bed, she heard it again. A soft, ghostly giggle, like a young girl laughing in the wind. Being older and half asleep, she wasn't sure if she was really hearing things or if it was just a dream. Her reflexes weren't what they used to be, after all. She peered out again, saw nothing out of the ordinary, and eventually drifted back to sleep. The next morning, she went to collect her clothes to take them back to her husband. But there, hanging right where her clothes had been, was an old traditional Chinese wedding dress. She was absolutely terrified. She knew for a fact it wasn't hers, and certainly no one else had been in the apartment overnight. Panicked, she threw open the door and raced downstairs, screaming to the security guards that someone had broken into her home and was trying to scare her. 5 or 6 security guards rushed up to the 10th floor. Their commotion woke up everyone in Block C, and soon a crowd gathered, as nothing like this had ever happened in the building before. But when they all got to May's apartment, the wedding dress was gone. All that remained was a bridal headscarf on the floor. Some people began to wonder if the older woman had somehow brought it herself without realizing it. She was furious, yelling that she would never do such a thing and that she wasn't playing games. She insisted she had heard the knocking and the giggling and saw the dress clearly. But now it was gone, and only the headscarf was left. The poor woman was screaming and crying, utterly consumed by fear. Unfortunately, in 2000, Thuan Kieu had virtually no cameras, so the security guards couldn't offer any explanations or proof. The mother went home and told her husband everything. Since they sold joss paper, they had some experience with the spirit world, with yin people. They decided to bring some joss paper upstairs to burn it as an offering. But when they got there, the security guards stopped them cold. They weren't allowed to burn anything in the building, fearing a fire in the new complex. The mother was terrified, crying, "But I'm all alone here. What do I do?" So that night, her husband decided to stay with her. They managed to get permission to bring up a fruit basket and 3 incense sticks, but no joss paper. They lit the incense and offered the fruit. For a while, everything was normal. The two of them settled down to sleep in the apartment. But in the middle of the night, the knocking started again. The husband shot up, went to the door, and opened it. Just like his wife, he saw absolutely nothing in the hallway. This time, the security had left a dim light on at each end of the corridor, so it wasn't completely dark, but the middle section was still shrouded in gloom. The couple quickly closed the door, adding extra locks and a heavy crossbar for good measure. Back in bed, the wife couldn't sleep. Older adults often struggle to fall back asleep once they've been woken. She turned to her husband and said, "Honey, go make us some tea. We need to figure this out. Based on our years of selling joss paper, this house is definitely haunted, and it's by a fierce spirit, not a gentle one." Her husband simply said, "Let's wait for our daughter to come home in a few days. Then we'll tell her everything and ask her to sell this place." Back in 2000, calling overseas from Vietnam was incredibly expensive and challenging, so Mai only called home every 3 or 4 days. As they sat there, talking and planning, they suddenly heard it. The loud clang of drums and trumpets from the hallway. Then they saw smoke starting to seep in from under their door. Fearing a fire, they bravely opened the door once more. What they saw next was an image that would be forever burned into their memories, an experience that truly shook them to their core. Both elderly parents witnessed a terrifying procession. Ox-headed and horse-faced demons leading the way, followed by other demons in chains. Behind them came a bridal palanquin, carried aloft by more demons, all of them playing loud, eerie music as they paraded down the corridor. The sight was too much. The wife fainted right there on the spot. The husband slammed the door shut, collapsing into tears. He was so terrified. He started chanting Buddhist prayers and even put the fruit offerings they'd brought earlier by the door, begging the spirits to eat and leave them alone. The next morning, as soon as the sun peeked out at 5 a.m., the couple flung open the door and fled the apartment. They were so scared that they took the stairs, not daring to use the elevator. By the time they reached the 9th floor, they were screaming and pounding on the neighbors' doors. They were both crying, the wife's face ashen with terror. They recounted the entire terrifying ordeal to everyone, including Uncle Three's friend, who shared the story. They even handed their keys to the security guards, begging them to lock up because they couldn't bring themselves to go back. They returned to their old market stall, waiting for May to call. When she finally did, and her parents relayed the whole horrifying tale, May's heart broke for them. But she also felt a pang of regret for the significant investment she'd made in what was supposed to be Saigon's most luxurious apartment complex. Her parents, however, were firm. "Daughter," they told her, "you have to sell it. We clearly saw the ox-headed and horse-faced demons and the other demons with bloodied faces. In Hong Kong folklore, what we saw that night was a ghost wedding procession. A demonic wedding, my child. This isn't just a simple haunting. This place is truly cursed." Hearing this, May made up her mind instantly. She would sell the apartment immediately. It took about 3 or 4 months, but eventually, a Taiwanese man bought it from her at a lower price, intending to use it for business and rental. The elderly couple breathed a collective sigh of relief. Uncle Three's friend even mentioned that other residents on different floors had encountered even more terrifying paranormal events. That's why people gradually started moving out of Thuan Kieu. And if you're brave enough, Uncle Three says he's got even more chilling stories from Thuan Kieu Plaza, ready for the next 19th night.